Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Chester Belloc Hour, brought to you by your affable hosts, Caleb and Connor. Sit back, relax, and join us for an enchanting journey through the wit and wisdom of Chesterton and Belloc. Stay tuned.
And we're here. Sorry it's been so long, everybody. Connor went off and got married. Good for him. But he's been busy, so we haven't put out an episode in a while. But, don't worry, we got a great one for you today. We're going to cover a great essay from Chesterton. And to do that, I got my friend Doc with me. Doc, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you? Hello.
Doing great.
Thank you again for letting me be the token Protestant that you allow to do fun things with you. It's very kind of you. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it.
Well, most of the other Protestants I'm friends with have blocked me after a while, so it's good to have at least one left.
Yeah, well, this topic for another day. How
how it is.
Are Anglicans really? But yeah, that's a topic for another day. Yeah.
I feel like you guys probably get this is my observing on Twitter. I imagine some of the Baptists or some of like the more evangelical type have issues with you. This is what I've seen on Twitter.
The vibe on Anglican Twitter is we make fun of everyone and love it, but we're actually really nice people, but we kind of love to troll everyone because we are kind of in between several different things. And so yeah, I guess you would say the people who probably really dislike us the most are not even you all, not the orthos. It's really the crazy brainworms Baptists who just they're like, you might as well have a pope because you kneel before the elements as you receive them. I'm like, okay, well, we have a bishop. There's a bishop. I mean, is he the pope? I don't know. Yeah. So,
the really, really low church. I mean, I'm always so torn on them because when I see them online or I see them on like podcasts or and arguments and stuff, I'm just like, this is terrible. This is awful. I can't stand this. Then I meet one of them in person. I'm like, man, these people are so nice.
Yeah, I was actually hanging out at a friend's or Eastern Orthodox church today because it's this is what Anglicans do. We just kind of we go visit places and we talk to people. We're kind of intermediaries. We're intermediaries. But I was talking about this how we were like, well, we can disagree on all these things, but we both agree that like these low churchies are crazy. And I was like, yeah, but man, do they have amazing hymns, and they are usually very nice people and very good people. They're actually very good people.
Yes.
They're usually better people than I am. So I'm like, no, I can't judge, right? At least I have to judge myself before I judge them.
There is something to be said for the low church Protestant defining themselves by what they don't do rather than what they do, there's a big they define themselves like, well, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do this, and then all the energy they have access goes into being nice people.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that. I still stand by that, well, this is actually speaking of Chester Belloc. Hilaire Belloc for one Lent gave up wine, and he wrote a letter to Chesterton during that Lent and said, "I have become the most dreadful of creatures, a Protestant."
Well, you'll find that coffee can be very intoxicating, and I think for a lot of low churchies, that's how they get their buzz, right? Going as they're highly caffeinated Calvinists or something like that, So,
but you're absolutely right on the hymns, though. I mean, "Power in the Blood" might be my favorite hymn. A great hymn.
There are some old Appalachian hill songs, if you know what I mean, that actually, interestingly enough, are sung inside at least the American Anglican community because they're sort of we take from everyone, right? And they are uniquely American songs.
Very Anglo.
Very Anglo. Yeah, we take from everyone. They're very in some way they come out of a very low church context, but they can be fitted or maybe shoehorned into a more high church setting. But man, are these hymns they stir something deep inside my Scotch Irish soul, and it must just be blood memories or something. Yeah. I'm like, this is such a banger of a hymn, and honestly, the people who wrote the hymn would have never considered me a Christian, right? They would have considered me some sort of heretic. But I'm like, that's fine because this hymn you left behind is so beautiful, right? And it is blood, it is death, it is sin, it is the most costly of redemptions. It's real, theology of the cross, even though they wouldn't call it that because they're Baptists. It doesn't matter. It's still kind of, theology of the cross. And so I think everyone, we should all just steal from each other. Yes. We should all just share. We should all just, share it around a little bit. This is probably my take that gets me. This is the most
this is what puts me away from a lot of the trads or a lot of the more mainline Catholic stuff. Is I'm all for more rights. Like my solution when people ask me, well, how do you we're in a Catholic country, how do you deal with Protestants or multiculturalism, all that kind of stuff? I'm like, there's more rights. Why don't we look at the way they do masses in Africa? Then look at a Vietnamese mass.
There's drums.
Why do we all have to be in one rite? We already have the Eastern rite, we have the Latin rite, we have the Byzantine rite. I simply say we should have more rights. Let's incorporate more people with more rights. I'd be fully on board if the Pentecostals wanted to have some charismatic Pentecostal rite that was completely in line with sociology, and they just kind of wanted to have a slightly different service.
Yeah.
As long as it's not being disrespectful to the Eucharist, I don't see any problem.
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned this before, but it bears repeating, and I'm going to because it's on topic. I mean, Anglicanism is an interesting thing because was spread around the world by the British Empire, so which has now broken up. Hey, just like Roman Catholicism, isn't that interesting? How that harmony there, and in its breaking up, you have various different regional varieties and flavors of Anglicanism, and so like my church, which is part of the ACNA, was actually which is really just a Rwandan mission to reconvert Episcopalians to like the Nicene Creed and to stop being ridiculous. Because of the Rwandan heritage, like our apostolic succession is through the Church of Rwanda, not directly through Canterbury. And as such, we have elements of our liturgy that are explicitly Rwandan. Now, this is hilarious because like my parish is mostly white people, some Asians, mostly whites, but we do a few things, just a handful of things that are Rwandan. This isn't some sort of weird kayfabe. This is a conscious choice to say thank you to the Church of Rwanda. But I will tell you that those things, those liturgical elements, which are African, I had never experienced before I started, going to an Anglican church. I was like, wow. And I asked the priest, what is this? He's like, it's African Anglican liturgy. And it is a little different, but it is really cool. So
that sounds really interesting.
More rites, more different varieties, regional variations are good. Different flavors are good. As long as you're theologically sound, I agree.
Yes.
Just allow for a complexity of different ways of expressing faith.
Some subsidiarity is fine. I mean,
okay.
I've made this argument before with people because like the some Catholics online will freak out and attack local customs or local beliefs about saints or certain things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as long as it's not a heresy, let them have the local pride. I mean, how many different towns have claimed Saint George is buried there or Saint George is involved? And I mean, as much as I love Saint George killed the dragon, I don't want to get into Saint George stuff because the Roman one, then there's the later one. I think there's multiple, all that kind of stuff. But like, let people have some local pride. This is one of Belloc's favorite points Belloc made is that every town needs to have local heroes and local heritage. And if you don't know anything, just stop making it up.
I mean, yeah.
If you see a statue, just claim something that guy killed a dragon, and here's the story, and then that story becomes the legend surrounding that guy. It's kind of it's a weirdly postmodern way of trying to make local heritage, local pride cool.
I would say it's almost meta modern. It's kind of this. It's what happens when postmodernism runs to its logical course, which is you're really thrust. You go so fast. You go 88 miles an hour and you kind of go back to the future. You kind of have to, you tear a hole in space-time and you find yourself going backwards, right? And you find yourself recovering myth and recovering like legend, right? And you find yourself creating maybe in a good mythopoetic sense, right? Which maybe recreating, reconstructing something like that, what your ancestors would have had. And it won't look the same, but you know what? That's okay. It's okay because it vibes, it harmonizes with what your ancestors looked up to people, right? Your ancestors did realize that the demons were real. They realized that the saints were real. And so they realized that there were angels everywhere, right? And so it's just a matter of kind of
too many people have a rigid definition of tradition, and they try to take the tradition of a certain time and then copy paste it into the day and force it to fit into the force the puzzle piece to fit. And tradition was living. Traditions changed with the people. Things shifted. It's a living tradition. So things do need to change. And trying to force it isn't actually being traditional. It's nostalgic. There's a difference.
Yeah, and nostalgia ain't always that bad, but
no, I'm all fine with nostalgia. But when nostalgia takes priority, that's when it starts to become a problem.
I agree. I think that this is all actually very Chestertonian what we're talking about here. So
Yes.
this is not an aside, dear listeners. I think this is right. We're heading in the right direction.
Yes.
Here. So,
Well,
yes.
We're 10 minutes in. We've covered Chesterton. Let's actually get into the essay here. So
Yes.
today we're covering On Running After One's Hat from Z.K. Chesterton. This is probably one of his more well-known essays. These are one of his more well-known phrases, you know. As we go through it, you're going to hear a lot of lines and you go, oh, that's from that essay. Oh, they're not also from the same essay. You know, you're going to hear several lines and realize they all came from the same essay. Before we get into it, though, one more thing, Doc. What's your opinion on Chesterton? Because I know he was Anglican and he became Catholic. I'm kind of just curious what your thoughts are, because he changed churches, but he didn't really change much about his views on anything. You know,
you've tolerated me for over a year now, so I'm going to continue doing my thing, and you can. Mm-hmm. You probably won't edit this out, so I'll still just say it. Yeah, Chesterton was Catholic and then he became Roman. I agree with you. Yes. Which is my autistic distinction I'm drawing there. Yeah, because I would contend we are Catholic, just not Roman. And then he became Roman Catholic, which I say, I wish him the best of luck. No, it's fine. It's it's fine. We were talking about this before we recorded. English Catholics of like Tolkien and earlier, most Anglicans sort of implicitly or soft accept as one of their own, even though those authors and probably Roman Catholics would say, hey, they're not one of your own. We would say they are because they were so damn English and they were so Christian. So to be English and to be Christian can be a lot of different things, but Anglicans are English, or at least English speaking most times, and Christian. So we would like a lot of Anglicans look up to Chesterton, even though he became Roman Catholic. We really don't care in the most like, not in like a we hate you kind of way, but just in like a that's great for him. That's so wonderful.
We wish him well.
Like, we wish him well in the truest sense. Like I mean, right? Because it's like, you switched one flavor of Catholicism to another, right? That's wonderful for you. I still look up to you as a good writer, as a good thinker. Obviously, I would probably come to some different conclusions on certain issues, but I mean, most of the time, 80% of the time, I would say, I mean, I'm like right there with them. So this is just my personal, I'm not speaking for my tribe. This is just my personal standpoint on it. But I mean, I think a lot of Anglicans would agree with me on this.
To kind of put in like a historical example, it seems kind of like when someone who is a Eastern Orthodox or like Greek Orthodox goes Byzantine Catholic. It's like there's a lot of similarities. Okay, you're still living in the same area, you're still kind of the same culture. You moved to different church and adopted some slightly different views, but you're still kind of, there was a great Greek Orthodox writer who became Byzantine Catholic. I'm sure the people would have the same kind of reaction to his writings that you are describing now with Chesterton.
Yeah, but again, and I would say too, like Anglicans in general, we do like to borrow and never return, if you know what I mean. So like we just kind of take things, and that's fine. We don't take them in malice, right? And we don't take anything that can't be reproduced. Like we're like, well, we'll take his idea and we'll apply it, right? Like, and some people sometimes go like, hey, but you can't do that. Like, but we can, right? Case in point, like Eastern Orthodox are always, and I think Catholics too. Roman Catholics are always a little shocked to hear that not in every church and not in every parish, but there are Anglican parishes, and I'm lucky and fortunate enough to belong to one that do commune infants, because and that is actually more of an Eastern Orthodox practice. And my ortho friends are always blown away when I remind them of that. And I say, you're not the only ones who commune infants, because we do that. And they're like, wow, but you're in the West. I'm like, yeah, but we have in some small ways, right? A theology that it's not the same, but it mirrors yours in some way. So we do that. And so and so Anglicans are kind of known for this. We like to kind of we're rabble rousers, right? We like to kind of be like, but have you considered? We're the know-it-alls in the back of the class, but we so that's kind of, I guess I would say, my and many other Anglicans' appreciation of Chesterton and Tolkien, right? And as is like, they're Roman Catholic, but they're still English. They still count. And we were talking about before we recorded too that, I mean, I think no malice, right? A lot of Roman Catholics have a similar view of C.S. Lewis, and like we're happy to share. Like it's not like we have sole claim on him, right? Like he's from our tradition, but he was a mere Christian, right, in his
Mhm.
mind. So like, of course, he's for everyone who is Christian. So yeah, Anglicans do get up in arms about some things. The things we get up in arms about are more like which version of the Book of Common Prayer is your favorite, not like who gets to have which saint, right? We don't care so much about that. So we fight about way stupider things. So
Okay, well, I'll start reading. When you want to jump in and say anything, just jump right in.
all right.
I feel it almost savage envy on hearing that London has been flooded in my absence. While I am here in the Mere Country, my own Battersea has been, I understand, particularly favored as the meeting of the waters. Battersea has already, as I need hardly say, the most beautiful of human localities. Now that it has the additional splendor of great seats of water, there must be something quite incomparable in the landscape or waterscape. Right there. I love that little, in parentheses, waterscape.
Waterscape.
It's just such a fun little thing.
Makes me think of Waterworld. Yeah.
Yes.
Kevin Costner, Waterworld. Yeah. It's awesome.
Such a fun movie.
It's such a fun movie.
Like Mad Max on the water. You can't really hate it.
Yeah. It's not a good movie, but it is fun.
No, but it's fun.
It's very fun. Yeah.
I argue some of the best movies aren't good. They're just fun.
Yeah. They're just, they allow themselves to have fun.
Yes.
Yep.
Of my own romantic town, Battersea must be a vision of Venice. The boat that brought the meat from the butchers must have sought along the lanes of rippling silver with the strange smoothness of a gondola. The greengrocer who brought cabbage to the corner of the Latmere Road must have leant upon the oar with the unearthly grace of a gondolier. There is nothing so perfectly poetical as an island, and when a district is flooded, it becomes an archipelago. That's just a fun line.
It is.
Some consider such romantic views of flood or fire slightly lacking in reality, but really this romantic view of such inconveniences is quite as practical as the other. The true optimist who sees in such things an opportunity for enjoyment is quite as logical and more sensible than the ordinary indigent ratepayer who sees in them an opportunity for grumbling. So
personally called out. I'm an indignant ratepayer, and I don't want to be, but I am. I confess it on this Sunday that I am. I cannot lie. I think it's, for me, I mean, I feel very called out by this, and that's good, right? But I think it is kind of one of those inside you are two wolves thing. I think I have a romantic that really, at my heart, I do think I'm a romantic. But I have been so browbeaten by modernity, and so I'm like, yeah, that's just anytime, like, for example, like one of the main highways through town right now in Seattle is undergoing construction, but honestly, it's only on the weekends and it's only northbound. So you're like, yeah, this is an inconvenience, but ultimately you just take another route and it maybe takes you 10 more minutes, right, to get to your destination. And ultimately, like, your ancestors were like getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers to get a handful of berries. So why the hell are you complaining? And so the romantic in me is like, yeah, I shouldn't complain at all, like, right? But then the sort of the adult, and I mean that kind of in the negative quality of the adult that you become, right? When you lose your childhood, a little bit of the childlike wonder, right?
When you lose fairyland.
Yeah, you become that adult that's just angry all the time. You're like, God, it's such a horrible way to live, right? Like you need to and well, obviously I don't want to jump ahead into the latter part of the essay here, but yeah, I feel that, and I'm try hard not to be that, but I am often that person. I am often angry about things that are not even really bad. That's the thing too. Like, why was I so angry about that? Like, why was, I think for me, oftentimes it's that I'm angry about other things, deeper things. And so, but I don't want to deal with them. So I latch on to the stupid, inane inconveniences. And I fail to see them as maybe, elements of, maybe there's some beauty in the archipelago, right? There's a beauty in the flood, maybe, a little bit, sort of, right?
Well, on your point about the inside view, the two wolves saying, well, I think that's fair, completely valid. My take has always been this, like, when if there's an inconvenience that you can't solve, or something you can't get around, it's fine, it's good and healthy. Just to kind of like, well, like, I don't know, I was taking a road trip to not even a road trip. I got off work one day and I wanted to see the sunset on the beach, and so I drove 3 hours to the coast. And along the way, I got a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, and I ended up missing the sunset.
Alas.
I know. I was very upset about it for like about 10-15 minutes, and I'm like, well, I still had fun driving here. I still got to go to the beach, and it was honestly too cloudy to see the sunset anyway, so I got to see the night sky on the beach. That was pretty cool. You know,
Yeah,
so
well,
I
and
found,
y'all got pretty beaches down there.
oh,
So
we do have band, especially if you can go to the beach. If you're lucky enough when you're here to go to the beach when a storm is rolling in and you can see the waves, the clouds coming in with the waves.
yeah,
It's insane.
I've never really. I think I went to Florida once as a small child. I don't remember it. I've not experienced that in Florida. I have experienced that in the Philippines, and it's also a tropical place that gets storms. I know what you mean. A tropical storm rolling in off the sea, and there's that moment where you're like, I really want to experience this, but it's probably going to rain like crazy. I should probably run undercover. And you're like, there's the tension in your heart of like, how much of my like well-being do I want to risk to see the beauty of the storm? And you're
It's
like,
a very tropical
Yeah.
atmosphere and mood. Floridians, we're great at this. This entire, being whimsical despite the inconvenience. My favorite example of that is Floridians really embody this every hurricane season because we'll have hurricane parties.
Awesome.
People,
what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah, everyone will get together. You drink a whole bunch, and then 9 months later, you have babies named after the storm. That's just what happens here.
Yeah, and
it's great.
See, in my mind, I'm a romantic, so I will romanticize this. In my mind, it's just people like you got like a Coleman lantern because the power has gone out, and you have like an ice chest full of beer, and you're just kind of like listening to some music on a battery powered
some
like
Bluetooth speaker or something.
Smart speaker, and you're just playing as the wind goes crazy outside.
That is a hurricane party, and honestly, it's even more fun when you do lose power. It's one of those parties where like the worse things are outside, the better the party is. It's a great time.
I think that's pretty positive. I mean, I have great respect for. I've spent some time and I've lived just a little bit in not in Florida, but in Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they don't necessarily have tornado parties, but they do have. I mean, people go out and just watch the tornadoes. And at first, I thought that was nuts, but then it kind of made sense. I'm like, because if you kind of have to, you have to vibe with what you have, but also. At least in the case of a tornado, you have to be able to pay attention. You have to see if it's changing direction so you can run away. You have to follow it. Yeah.
And on the flip side, this is where I want to kind of badmouth Chester a little bit. He was famously terrible with money, and his wife handled all the finances because he always was in that whimsical childlike state that he had his wife handle all the money.
Well, I'm not.
It's not bad. Maybe that's not great. Maybe it's not evil, but it is kind of that was a fact. I do think that is something that can be said about the whimsical side of things. When it was too whimsical.
I have many vices, and I don't think to kind of take a page or to riff on Abraham Lincoln. I have many vices, and I don't know if mine are actually the more fun ones. But I look at Chesterton and I see someone who had it appears he had a hard time saying no to certain things. If you know what I mean. And I'm not trying to say I'm some parent, but he kind of seemed like he had a hard time to say no to things. So the thing with the money makes sense to me. I'm like, yes, that makes sense to me.
When he came to America during Prohibition, he would take a train to Canada, get shit faced, and then try to sober up on the train ride back to America. So I can't blame him. I would do the same thing if I was in Prohibition in New York.
It was so awful. I mean, it's just
But see, if you're an Englishman, come on.
Oh yeah,
come on. You have to make allowances for that.
Yeah, I know. Only America could think of something so demoralizing and dehumanizing as Prohibition. I mean, it's just only we could make that.
And what's really funny about Prohibition is you blame it all on the women. The temperance movement was a women-led movement. You can blame the women for that one. That's my favorite example. It's like women shouldn't be in politics.
Well, in at the time, in the history, you read, well, the women were angry at the men for being drunk, and I'm like, yeah, but a lot of the women in the temperance movement were unmarried.
Yes.
So what? What is it? Huh?
That's a weird event.
It's a weird thing. Yeah.
It's because America is so known for drinking before and after.
So known for being like moonshiners and like do-it-yourself bootstrap. We'll make intoxicants out of. We'll lick toads. We'll find ayahuasca. We'll smoke anything. I mean, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying this is America, right? Like we are substance people. We like using substances and just the absolute but that's also very American, right? The absolute hypocrisy of we're going to pretend not to be intoxicated is just it's very American. you know, and the solution is to just set up a still in your backyard. That's really the solution. It's just make bathtub gin is what I'm trying to say. I think Chesterton would approve.
Probably would.
Probably would.
Okay, here we go. Who sees in them an opportunity for grumbling. Real pain is in the case of being burnt at Smithfield or having a toothache is a positive saying. It can be supported but scarcely enjoyed. But after all, our toothaches are the exception. And as for being burnt at Smithfield, it only happens to us at the very longest intervals. And most of the inconveniences that make men swear or women cry are really sentimental, imaginative inconveniences, things altogether of the mind. For instance, we often hear grown-up people complaining of having to hang about railway stations and wait for a train. Do you ever hear a small boy complain of having to hang about a railway station and wait for a train? Again, earlier when you used a dart and like in the way you used it, the way we tested doing a similar thing was grown up. Which I can appreciate that.
I wrote a little note to myself here. I wrote, autists love trains.
Yes.
If you didn't think he was autistic before, I mean, he's talking about trains, everyone. And that's fine. Trains are cool.
Trains are great. I remember when I was like 4 years old, we went to like this, like they had trains that were all set up like they were Thomas the Tank Engine trains, and you could actually ride on the trains, and it was really cool. And there's a video of me, like an old crappy video of me just giggling, going, "I'm happy, mommy. I'm happy, daddy. I'm happy. I'm happy." I'm on repeat.
Well,
I was stimming.
If you were stimming, and if you ever go to a country that has a functioning high-speed rail system, man, is it cool to be going like 150 miles an hour, 160 miles an hour,
awesome.
And like barely feel it, but you look out the window and you're like, we are going very, very, and then you look at the speed and you look at the kph and you convert it to mph in your head. And you're like, whoa, wow, we're going very, very fast, and like we're still on the ground. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Here, no, for him to have been inside a railway station is to be inside a cavern of wonder and a palace of potential pleasures. Because of him, the red light and the green light of the signal are like a new sun and new moon. Because of him, when the wooden arm of the signal falls down suddenly, it is as if a great king had thrown down his staff as a signal and started a shrieking tournament of trains.
This is very, sorry, I gotta call out because this is a Catholic space, so I'll call it out. And our mutual friend Bulge will be happy to hear this. Gene Wolfe, anyone? New Sun? Anyone? I mean, I know that's maybe retroactively a thing, causally here, but yeah, it's interesting. I would say, I think I wrote down here, railway stations are liminal spaces. Just like in American context, let's say airports, right? Because that's kind of our equivalent. Airports are liminal spaces. They're places where you go into and then cross over. Very much Stargate portal ways, right? You go to a new place, and you go to a new place by means of a magical vehicle, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, liminal spaces are a place of enchantment, and I know you and I have talked about this before, Caleb. So I'll mention again, right? Anytime you cross, even just it is that Bilbo thing, right? Of you step outside your front door and you don't know where the path will take you. It is really there's wonder in all of this. We just have to get over. I'll make an I statement. It's like therapy. I have to get over my indignant ratepayer, right? Because when you can do that, and I'm not very good at it, but the days and the times I can, everything is cool. Like even the like I said, the we have this strange roadworks process happening in Seattle, and we have lots of bridges in this because we have lots of water. And so if the bridges are shut down, it almost becomes like a Escape from New York situation where you're like, how am I supposed to get there if the bridge isn't working, right? You have to kind of take this strange, weird way. But you actually, I mean, I've lived in the city most of my life, but I have actually, because of detours, encountered new little areas of my own city that I might have never been there before. And I was like, huh, I didn't know this existed. Yes. And that's kind of cool, right? Like, I don't know if Florida is like that, but you know, you can.
No, there are definitely like for me at least, right? Like find those new places are always easier when there's any kind of construction. Because Florida construction is just awful. It always takes forever.
Yep.
The moment they start a road, you're like, well, fuck, I'm gonna have to find a new route for a year, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, on the whole, like, go ahead.
You all don't have a winter, so they can just keep. I guess you have hurricanes, but you don't have a winter, so they can just keep working. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you think that would make it get done, faster? But
no.
It's just year round. I mean, dude, there's a road here where they only worked on it for like 2 hours a night because they could charge more for a night crew.
Yep.
And it was just the most frustrating thing ever because it'd be construction all day. It'd be no construction all day. Nighttime traffic would slow down, but during the day there was 2 of the signs up and diverting traffic all around, and it was just a pain.
It is.
On the whole like inconvenience thing, being whimsical on that. I think this is a fun little example. On my drive back to Florida from Canada, I left right after Florida got hit by the hurricane. So I was already trying to get home to see some of the waters and see the floods and see anything going on.
Yeah.
But there was a giant car accident when a truck went crossed its lane and it's like on a 2-lane road, crossed its lane and went head first into a semi truck. And then another car, to avoid hitting the semi, veered hard to the right and hit the there's like a little hill next to it on the road, hit a hill like a ramp and landed in some dude's barn and then caught fire. And so the car was backed up for, ever. And everyone's waiting. So eventually we all got out of our cars, climbed the hill to get a better view, and then sat on the hill and we're kind of just talking and chilling.
Yeah.
As we wait for the accident to clear. And they found out I was an American, which was a lot of fun. And I remember that they kind of said, I don't know about y'all, but if we're going to wait this long, I kind of want to see a body. And
Good Lord.
Like, I mean, listen, if I'm going to wait this long, I kind of want to see the aftermath. I want to. They don't clean the accident away. I want to see the vehicle. I want to see what I was waiting for. And the Canadian was like, "That's a very American thing." I'm like, "Is it?" Okay.
I think it is. Yeah. The whole story in my head, obviously it probably didn't happen like this, but in my head, I'm imagining those scenes from Blues Brothers where there's the car jumps into the cop car accidentally jumps into the back of the semi truck, and John Candy's like, "Hey, give me the radio," and he goes like, "We're inside a truck." Yeah. As they're going down the road inside of a semi truck. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Ironically, John Candy being a Canadian, yet he's starring in an American movie. Yeah, it is an American thing to want to see the blood and the guts, right? It's very American. But maybe you could make an argument that is sort of a holdover, a survival, if you will, of our wilderness foundation, right? Of like if we're gonna have to deal with wolves and enemy tribes and stuff, at least we need to know where they are, right? We need to see where they are, right?
You got to see if there were arrows or bite marks on the abandoned wagon train.
Exactly. Yeah. Was it wolves or was it Comanches or was it both?
Or was it Bigfoot?
Was it Bigfoot or was it the Nephilim? We want to know.
And we need to see it.
We're Americans.
Now that I think about it, very much does feel like a holdover or survival attitude from the frontier days.
Yeah,
that's one thing I think about with America, like how much of the American attitude is connected to the frontier times. And how every nation had its frontier times in a sense, but for most countries it was after the fall of Rome, if not earlier.
Yeah.
For America, it was like what 3 or 4 generations, maybe.
Yeah, not that far back. We are not that even. And this again, you find this in city dwellers, right? Even city dwellers have a kind of a quasi frontier mindset, at least in some places. And the European mind cannot comprehend this. They do not get it. I've tried to explain this to a friend from England and a friend from Germany, and they both kind of don't get it because they're too far removed in time from that period, right? They don't live in a tribal society, whereas Anglo-Americans have encountered, like you say, 3 to 4 generations back, tribal societies, and themselves kind of had to become tribal in order to win. So there's this interesting kind of cultural memory, I guess you could call it, a survival, a holdover. It's a little morbid, right? I'm not gonna. I mean, I love blood and guts horror movies, and Americans love this thing for a reason. But I do think it might be a kind of a dark whimsy, but there is a whimsy to it, right? Yeah. There's sort of I want to see what caused this
kind of a gothic whimsy,
a gothic whimsy,
Addams Family kind of whimsy.
Yeah, it's kind of like a blood meridian whimsy, right?
Now that I think about it, I kind of want to do a whole episode on kind of like that kind of whimsical, but like the Addams Family whimsy or the Blood Meridian whimsy. I kind of want to do a podcast on that, the darker whimsy kind of thing. That's an interesting concept.
We should do it. Well, if you want to have me on, bring me on, because I have a lot to say about it, but we'll continue on Chesterton.
Yes.
Yeah, but the dark whimsy Chesterton was not he was not American. He has
No.
a more wholesome English whimsy, but yeah, there's a dark
American
side
whimsy's
to it.
kind of got some. I mean, my favorite example of this.
How about this? American whimsy is like Flannery O'Connor level whimsy. Like, right? Like that. There's a Catholic reference, right? Like, it's like, look at what can go wrong.
Her books are. Oh, I love her books, but man, they hit you. No, my example of this is going to be. We have cryptids. Europeans have gnomes, fairies, and elves. There's a difference in what we see in the dark, you know.
Or you could say, I would say, the English have ghosts and Americans have aliens, UFOs.
Ooh,
right?
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot to be said about just that, actually.
Yeah. Well,
we're gonna record later on that topic because we got to get to this essay.
Is coming. Bring me on. We'll do it. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a great Halloween episode.
Yep. Bring me on.
That'd be awesome. Okay, we're gonna have to plan for that. Anyway, where are we at?
I myself am of little boy's habit, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let me find that page here.
Bottom page 2.
I am myself am of a little boy's habit in this matter. They also serve who only stand and wait for 2:15. Their meditations may be full of wits and fruitful sayings. Many of the most purple hours of my life have been passed at Clapham Junction.
Clapham, I think it's pronounced.
Clapham Junction. This is another reason why I wanted to do one. When I read through some of these names, I'm like, I need someone who might know these names. Clapham Junction, which is now, I suppose, underwater. I have been there in many moods so fixed and mystical that the water might have well come up to my waist before I noticed it particularly. On that point, that's probably true. More than once, one of my favorite Chesterton stories is that he stopped in the middle of a intersection because he was in the middle of contemplating an argument. And the other one is that he while thinking about arguments, he got onto the wrong train twice and had to write his wife a telegram saying, "I am here. Where ought I be?" Because he had no clue where he was supposed to even end up because he was so, I call it, he was in fairyland. He was mentally wandering as he went about his life, so much so that he kind of forgot where he was going half the time.
Well, there's a story. It might be apocryphal, but I don't care because legendarily it's true. Of Tolkien, who was of course heavily influenced by Chesterton. And Tolkien supposedly once at the bank, instead of putting in a deposit slip, put down. Now some people say it was a joke, and some people say he was just genuinely in a different state of mind. Put in his fake teeth to deposit them, and the teller was like, "What?" So yeah,
that's awesome.
This is how autists do. We're always somewhere else. Sometimes my wife has to say, "Where are you right now?" And I'm like, "Oh, I was contemplating the Proto-Germanic root of this one word." And my wife's like, "What are you? What? Who have I married? Like, what?" I'm like, "I don't know. I was just."
There's a great quote from Chesterton. To be absence of mind is not absent; it is simply present elsewhere.
Amen. Well, and
Still real.
I mean, I know I don't know if you guys would consider him a saint. Probably not. But what is a mark of a saint if not bilocation? Am I right? So maybe he was spiritually bilocating somewhere else and just happened to get lost. It happens. It happens. It's okay.
Yes.
You hop on another train, hop back, send a telegraph to your wife. Where am I? It's okay.
But in the case of all such annoyances, as I have said, everything depends upon the emotional point of view. You can safely apply the test to almost any one of the things that happen that are currently talked of the typical nuisances of daily life. For instance, there is a current impression that it is unpleasant to have to run after one's hat. Why should it be unpleasant to be well-ordered and pious mind? To the well-ordered and pious mind, not merely because it is running, and running exhausts one. The same people run much faster in games and sports. The same people run more eagerly after an uninteresting little leather ball than they would a nice silk hat. There is an idea that it is humiliating to run after one's hat, and when people say it's humiliating, they mean that it is comic. It certainly is comic, but man's a very comic creature. And most of the things he does are comic. Eating, for instance. And the most comic things of all are exactly the things that are most worth doing, such as making love.
Hilarious.
A man running after a hat is not half so ridiculous as a man running after a wife.
Very true.
It's so good.
I printed it out and wrote LOL on that one. And then I had a little point here. This just popped into my mind as I was reading this. I wrote here, man as a comic and cosmic creature. And I think that there's the comic and the cosmic, I think there's a lot more interplay between those two categories. And I think a lot of us really want to admit or even really think about, right? Because what is a comedy, right? If you think about in like a Dante sense, right? Like Divine Comedy, anyone? Like a comedy is something that is topsy-turvy, right? And doesn't end up, it ends up counter to expectations, right? And so, I mean, that is kind of in a way what redemption and salvation is, right? Like the expectation is entropy, right? The expectation is death and degradation, and the expectation is sin, and the expectation is that there's not goodness. But look at what happens in spite of, in the face of all of those things, right? And so I think Chesterton would agree with me on this, right? I think he's trying to sort of touch on this a little bit, right? That this is there, the unexpectedness of it, of running after your hat. It is ridiculous, but what we do far more ridiculous. We sit inside offices and like hit buttons on a computer that could be done by AI, but we do it anyhow. And I'm not making an argument for AI. I don't like clankers, but my point is that like we do a lot of ridiculous stuff that, and a lot of it's actually good, right? Like it's kind of ridiculous in a way to go out of your way to help someone, but you should still be ridiculous and do that, right? Like you should make yourself uncomfortable in a good way to do good things. That is preposterous. Of course it's preposterous, but that's kind of, virtue has an element of the preposterous to it, right? Like there's something there, I think. I mean, maybe
now I'm
here, but
now I'm wondering about how so many people today, because of TikTok and recording and social media and stuff, are terrified of being cringe or feeling cringe, and because it's a negative feeling, and they're so scared of negative emotions and negativity at all, because they're so obsessed with positivity, that there's so many people who are not taking the comic action because they know it would make them feel like somebody here was running after the hat. That's probably, they don't like doing it because it makes them feel, because it's humiliating, because it's comic. That's probably what it was back then, up to times by 10 now, because of social media and the excess positivity and the people being terrified of the negative. It's probably much worse today.
I would agree wholeheartedly. If I may, and I'm weird doing, I feel weird doing this, but I'm going to be comic. I'm going to do it. All right. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
If I may be very slightly self-serving, I have recently done an episode with Pause of Timeline Earth over on his Patreon, all about it's an episode all about the esoteric theology of distance running. And so I've been thinking a lot about running lately. So it's really kind of cool. We did not plan this, folks, but Caleb had assigned me this essay to read. And I was reading it as I was planning for this. I was in deep thought for this theology of distance running. And so I can't help but think, now I will say Chesterton clearly was not a distance runner. I will say clearly was not, but he saw perhaps the merit of doing running, maybe after one's hat or after a wife. So if you find running interesting, check out our episode on running. It's been pretty well received. So that's a self plug there, but keep going. I'll throw it out there.
And everyone should go check out, Wandering Humanists and Pauses, Scarlet Thread Society. I mean, I've joined the Patreon. I don't catch every episode. I'm not active in the Discord, but there's enough good episodes that I'm going to support it regardless if I watch it, because they put out so many great stuff.
We appreciate it.
Go check it out. It's incredible. Yep. I do want to try to get caught back into the movie nights and stuff, but I'm just so busy.
It's hard. We get it.
Okay. Now, a man could, if he felt rightly in this matter, run after his hat with the manliest ardor and the most sacred joy. He might regard himself as a jolly huntsman pursuing a wild animal, for certainly no animal could be wilder. In fact, I am inclined to believe that hat hunting on windy days will be the sport of the upper class in the future.
Very Monty Python there.
Yes.
This is a Monty Python sketch. Yeah.
Man, there's so many. The more I think about English humor, I used to not understand English humor. I never really got the point of it. I never found it funny, but I can't remember who said it. But someone said the difference between American comedy and English comedy is that if a man is playing a guitar, and someone comes up on stage and smashes the guitar, the one doing the smashing is the American protagonist. The one who got his guitar smashed is the British protagonist.
Well said.
And now, once I heard that, it all clicked, and then it makes British humor is incredible.
It
They are
is.
some very funny people. I'm not going to do this. If anyone here listening, if you haven't, go watch Succession on HBO, because it's a American drama made by a British team who does British comedies. So it's an American drama written by British comedy writers. Incredible show. For that
I'll have to check it out.
very reason. They do all the things that you would do with a British comedy, to the protagonist being the victim of all the circumstances, but it's done in like an American drama. So it's very funny, but also very emotional.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll tell you about what's seen after because it's so funny. Am I wrong? But are you a Nirvana guy? Like, do you like Nirvana? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I'm from Seattle. That's part of my cultural heritage.
Okay.
Yes, I do like Nirvana. Yes.
Okay, then I'll definitely have to tell you about the scene afterwards. But
Cool.
where we at? Okay. Here we go. There would be a meeting of ladies and gentlemen on some high ground of a gusty morning, and they will be told that the professional attendants have started a hat and such and such a ticket, or whatever will be the technical term. Notice that the employment will in the fullest degree combine sports with humanitarianism. The hunters would fear they were not inflicting pain, nay, they would fear they were inflicting pleasure, wits, almost righteous pleasure, upon the people who were looking. When last I saw an old gentleman running after his hat in Hyde Park, I told him that a heart so benevolent as his ought to be filled with peace, and thanks to the thought of how much unaffected pleasure his every gesture and bodily attitude were at the moment given to the crowd. It's a great moment. That's great.
You can really imagine. You can imagine it, right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I'm amazed we've got movies on Tolkien, we've got movies on C.S. Lewis. I think a good Chesterton movie about his life would be so entertaining.
It would be good. You'd have to cast him well, though.
Yeah, well, the problem is the people who do him well are like stage actors.
Yeah,
because he has a very, I can't describe it any other way. He has a stage actor's kind of like he's very performative, and you need a stage actor to be that performative.
Yeah.
The same principle can be applied to every other typical domestic worry. A gentleman trying to get a fly out of his milk or a piece of cork out of his glass of wine often imagines himself to be irritated. Let him think for a moment of the patience of anglers sitting by dark pools, and let his soul be immediately irritated with gratification and repose. Again, I have known some people of very modern views, driven by the distress to the use of theological terms to which they attach no doctrinal significance. Is that a very clever way of him saying they blaspheme God's name?
Yes.
Yes. That's so good.
Yeah.
That is such a great. Oh man, he's so witty. He's so witty.
Yep.
Merely because the drawer was jammed tightly and they could not pull it out. A friend of mine was particularly affected in this way. Every day his drawer was jammed, and every day in consequence it was something else that rhymed to it. But I pointed out to him that this sense of wrong was really subjective and relative. It rested entirely upon the assumption that the drawer could and should and would come out easily. But if, I said, you picture to yourself that you are pulling against some powerful and oppressive enemy, the struggle will become merely exciting and not exacerbating. Imagine that you are tugging up a lifeboat out of the sea. Imagine you are roping up fellow creatures out of an alpine crevasse. Crevasse. Imagine even that you are a boy again, engaged in a tug of war between French and English. Shortly after saying this, I left him, but I have no doubt that of all my words bore the best possible fruit. I have no doubt that every day of his life he hangs on to the handle of the drawer with a flushed face, his eyes bright with battle, uttering encouraging shouts to himself, and seeming to hear all around him the roar of an applauding ring. So good.
It is so good.
So I do not think that it is altogether fanciful or incredible to suppose that even the floods of London may be accepted and enjoyed poetically. Nothing beyond inconveniences seem really to have been caused by them. An inconvenience, as I have said, is only one aspect, and as the most unimaginative and accidental aspect of a really romantic situation. An adventure is only an inconvenience rightly considered. An inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered. The water was good to the house and shops of London. Must, if anything, have only increased the pervasive witchery and wonder. For the Roman Catholic priest in the story said, wine is good with everything except water. And on a similar principle, water is good with everything except wine. Man, this is a fun little essay. So short, but so memorable, and so many great things just to ruminate upon, you know?
Can I, if you'll permit me, this is off the cuff. I did, this was not in my notes upon reading it, but upon hearing your very good rereading and performative reading of it, I thought of something, this word adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think of Adventure Time, Come On, Grab Your Friends, stuff like that, right? Like, I think the etymology of adventure actually, now obviously I don't think Chesterton had this in mind while writing this, but it doesn't matter, folks, because if something is true, then it just is true. The etymology, do you know anything about the etymology of adventure?
I do not.
Okay, so it comes from French, aventure, which comes from Latin, adventura. So, and it means something like about to arrive or about to happen. And I think that there's something deeply symbolic in that, because what is an adventure if not an eager maybe a tense, which could be good or bad, but a tense expectation of something new coming around the bend, right? And I think that that kind of is what Chesterton is talking about here, of like, if we reframe our expectations of what's coming around the bend and we approach adventure appropriately and correctly, we are filled with a sense of wonder and hopefully joy, right? And at the same time, even in the struggle, even if it's hard, and it probably will be hard, right? What's an easy adventure? There's no such thing as an easy adventure, right? I don't know what an easy adventure is. There's challenging adventures, many of those, many such cases. Yes, the thing that is about to arrive, that's what an adventure is. I think, and so maybe find adventure inside your inconveniences, maybe that's kind of, because those inconveniences might, bare minimum, if you approach them correctly, they might have a sense of joy, wonder, comedy, fun, or just hilarity to them. But sometimes those little everyday unexpected turns, those unexpected happenings, bring with them something much bigger than themselves, right? And so, yeah. Well, yeah, go ahead.
On that point of events are being defined as like, a tense expectation for something just around the bend, something new around the bend. I'm trying to think, because the only time I hear the word adventure used is on a woman's dating profile.
Oh, Lord. Well,
I'm trying to
use adventure every week as we sit around the table and roll dice. So for some of us, that's what an adventure is. Okay.
Well, no, I'm trying to think of that proper definition of it based on the etymology of the word. And this has been my common. I don't really use dating apps to date. I use them just to send insane messages to people. I had this one. Oh, this is a terrible one, but I'm gonna say it anyway. This girl had a picture of a cat and said, "I hope you're a cat person." To which I had to say, "Yeah, I'm a pussy lover."
Oh,
I know it's terrible, of course, but
low hanging fruit.
It's low hanging fruit, but it's hens. What do you expect?
Yeah.
But I keep telling these women on Tinder, it's like, you say you're adventurous. I hate to break it to you. Going to Taco Bell at 2:00 in the morning it's not what you think it is. That can be an adventure with the right mindset, but you don't have the mindset to make it an adventure. You're turning, the mindset you could. The proper mindset can turn errands and chores into adventures. Like, that's an example of opening the drawer. That can become an adventure itself if you have the right mindset. The mindset, everyone wants the adventure, but no one has cultivated the mindset to actually experience the adventure or to make the inconvenience the adventure.
Amen. Yeah. They're not seeing this as an opportunity for something new coming around the bend. They're seeing it as a thing I have to do. And I mean, I myself am very often guilty of this. I cannot judge too harshly here because I often fall into this trap. But, I think if I can tie, as I've been doing here, Chesterton back into Tolkien, because obviously Chesterton was a big influence on Tolkien.
Yes.
We've talked about when you were on the first time you were on my show, we talked about eucatastrophe. and Tolkien's notion of the unexpected turn towards the good and the unexpected salvation that comes in a way you didn't expect. What is that if not an adventure in this sense, right? It is that thing that's coming around the bend that you did not expect. And so I think that it would not surprise me if, maybe not necessarily from this essay, but in general, Chesterton's thought about this influenced Tolkien in this, at least to a little bit, right? Or bare minimum, they're at least drawing from the same well. I mean, clearly they're drawing from the same well, right?
Yes.
There's a reason why, I mean, I would say particularly for Tolkien, as a medievalist, he's thinking a lot about Arthurian adventures and Arthurian epics, right? And what is the name for a lot, like the different little chapters within a lot of those epics, if they were originally written in French, are called aventure. You see that word a lot. You see this adventure term pop up probably more in the French than you do in the English, and so that is interesting, right? Like, and we get the word from the French, so it's like there's an eager expectation of something new and exciting, right? Around every bend in all of those stories, right? Like, whether it's some new temptation to overcome, a new dragon to kill, some sort of giant to like barter with, or whatever, whatever it is, a new game to play with the Green Knight, right? Whatever it is, right? Depending on whichever epic you're talking about. It's all just different adventures thrown together into one bigger adventure, which we call, like, case in point, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Well, that's actually several different things, right? And a lot of modern readers are kind of, you'll hear, but this is like a gobbledygook thrown together story, and I don't really see the connection. And I like to say, and I'll say it again here, the connection is for you to find. There are connected stories with, similar characters or the same characters. The medievals didn't need to have a cohesive, cleanly written, published, edited a story, right? They kind of leaned into the absolute insanity of what life is, right? Particularly in an era when you don't have things like electricity, right, and aircon. You don't have those things. Life is a lot more dangerous in many respects, but a lot more. It's way full of adventure. Just getting, I mean, like, descriptions in like of the in the medieval period of getting around Rome. It would take you like 6 to 8 hours just to get to different places in the city because of things like, like, oh, today's the day we're bringing in the cows to be slaughtered, and you would shut down whole sections of the city. And so, like, everyone was like, it'll be an absolute adventure to go 3 miles, like in these densely packed medieval cities. And you're like, huh. Yeah, I guess maybe I shouldn't complain about the little, the slight little bit of traffic I'm having, because it took them sometimes, hours to go 3 miles. So, but those 3 miles, those hours to go 3 miles were full of, like, pickpockets, cows, street urchins, police, like, people doing things to you. Like, it was full of adventure. People throwing chamber pots out of the window, right? Like, and you don't want to get poo dropped on your head, so you had to be aware of that. And like, the past, we have adventure today, but we've like insulated and isolated ourselves from the adventure. So that's, like you said, and like Chesterton says, it's just inconveniences. But those are it's just a different perspective on what an adventure is, right? It is kind of the same phenomenon. We just have a very opposite way of handling it because of expectations, right? We expect things to go smoothly, but in reality, the smooth plan, the plan that goes smoothly, is the exception, not the rule, right? And so I don't know, right? Maybe I'm just riffing here, but
I mean, say, is it really an adventure if everything goes according to plan?
No,
it's
and how much of life really goes to plan?
Yes,
not much, right? Not much. John Lennon was a great musician. I would take some exception to some of his philosophical points, but he was a great poet and a great musician. And I'll probably butcher this quote, but he said something like, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And I think we could say adventure is what happens, right, when you're busy making other plans here, right? If you can just let go, and I'm saying this to myself as much as I'm to anyone else, if you can just let go of the plan for 2 seconds, right, for 2 seconds, maybe you could have an adventure.
Mm.
And maybe you'd be happier for it. I probably would be if I could just do this.
Well, we're running up on the hour, so I'm hesitant to bring this up. I'm gonna have to bring it up anyway because I think it's a good example. The best example of this mindset makes the adventure in fiction that I could think of is Don Quixote.
Yep.
That is just a great example. And I gotta ask you, have you read Don Quixote?
I know the general outline. I confess to my eternal shame, I have not yet read. I have not read it. No.
You gotta check it out. It's so good.
I know.
But we'll end it here because I don't want to spoil anything for it. But Doc, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed this one. Give your plugs. Where can people find you at? All that kind of stuff.
Thanks for having me, as always. I appreciate it. You can find me on YouTube. We do about one episode a month because we're busy, but I have a host of people I do a show with. It's called The Wandering Humanists. Caleb has been on, and hopefully we'll have him on again shortly. There's a little bit of guilt there, so you should come on.
Yes, I want to come on again, dude. I love podcasting. So much fun when you don't have to plan it. You can just go on someone else's show. It's great.
Our mutual colleague Bulge and I recently did an episode on this movie Sicario, and the claim we make is that it's actually a werewolf movie. So people should go check that out. I every month I do an episode with Paz from Timeline Earth on his Scarlet Thread Society Patreon. It's called the Enchanted Office Hour. Again, self-plug for that. This month's episode was all about the esoteric theology of distance running and what happens to you when you get into other states of mind brought about by physical exertion. It actually does weirdly well tie in with the themes of the Chesterton essay. So if you're interested at all, check that out. And those are my plugs.
Fantastic. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We got a poetry space being uploaded tomorrow, hopefully, and I think either in a few weeks or a month, Connor will be back, so we'll have back to the, we're going to go back to covering the Servile AIDS, not Servile, Servile State audio, Servile State book from Belloc. Go subscribe to the Substack, all that stuff. Doc, when I hit record, it's going to kick you out, but don't leave. I'm going to add you back in once the outro plays. Gotta tell you something funny real quick.
Okay, sounds good.
Without further ado, everyone, thanks for listening. Have a good night.
Our hour together has drawn to a close. We hope the Chester Belloc Hour has left you with thoughts to ponder and a heart a little lighter. Thanks for listening. Until next time, we wish you a restful night and a bright tomorrow. Good night.